Hi everybody, it's Valerie from Stampin' with Valerie. Welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday. I'm going to get my video pulled up. I hope you are all having a great day. Not too bad here. It's been pretty good. It's a little cooler out today, which I personally like. Looks like my camera view is a little askew. I'm just going to move it real quick. Hi Angie, how are you? Thanks for watching. Hopefully that's a little bit better. It's a little straighter now. Didn't realize I bumped it when I was getting ready to get started. But today I'm going to use this gorgeous stamp set. It's called Parisian Beauty. And what I love about this stamp set is it coordinates with another stamp set. I only used the Parisian Beauty today, but I will show you the second stamp set that it coordinates with. And that is this Forever Blossom stamp set. So they go together, they have different dies, but they look really fabulous when you use them together on a card. And this is the card I made today with the Parisian Beauty stamp set. What do you think of this? I think it turned out really pretty. I love these champagne foil accents that are in the designer series paper. I think it just makes it look really, really good. When I turn it, you'll be able to see that there's that champagne accent in there. And then I did some heat embossing and I used copper because we don't have champagne, which maybe someday we'll get champagne embossing powder, but I used the copper because it kind of goes with the champagne. So I'm just going to set this card off to the side and set my stamp set over here on the other side, and we will get started making this cute card. So the first thing that we will do is I've got a piece of Petal Pink Designer Series paper, and actually I have two of them. Let me divide them up here. I've got two of them because I'm cut extras, I guess. Just fold it in half and use your bone folder and give it a good crease. Now, of course, a lot of people just use their fingernail. I don't really have fingernails, so my bone folder works fantastic for this. Love it. And then you're going to have a piece of vellum cardstock. And you know vellum cardstock is just this little transparent white, and we have some different colors as well, but I just used the white for this card. See-through, but I ran it through one of our new embossing folders, and I got this fantastic image. This is the, let me see what the name of it is. I think it's Parisian Flourish. Yeah, Parisian Flourish 3D embossing folder to get this fantastic pattern, and you can do it with any cardstock. You can, I believe you could do it with designer series paper as well. I mean, if you can do it with vellum, I'm sure you can do it with your designer series paper. I haven't done much embossing, dry embossing as this is called, with the designer series paper, but maybe I need to try that, practice it, see how it turns out. So your first step is going to be to get that embossed, and then you're going to cut a piece of the designer series paper, whichever pattern you want. I wanted the cherry blossoms with these splatters of champagne foil. You can see the other side is this really pretty, almost looks like an iron gate or a fence. That's what it looks like to me. Then take some Tombow multi-purpose glue. You could use snail if you wanted to, but I like the way the glue adheres to the vellum, because this is just going to go directly onto that vellum piece, which is not attached to the card yet, but it's just there. And then take a clear block. This is like one of my favorite things to do to keep things glued down or get things to be glued down, is lay a block on the top of them. I better pick that up, make sure I got it straight. Looks pretty straight. All right, so once you have that done, you're going to do some more die cutting. And the die cutting that you are going to do is going to involve a couple of different set of dies, and I'm going to show you those dies. These are the painted label dies. These go with the poppies. We're going to use this long die from the Lily Pad dies. This is a free set of dies that you can earn in Celebration. And then we are going to use the Eiffel Tower, this Eiffel Tower die, after we heat emboss a little Eiffel Tower. So we've got one of these in vellum. Then with the Lily Pad die, I cut out this awesome little, I call it rain, they look like raindrops to me, if you put them this way. But all these little pieces, you can see with that detail, those punch out, but I didn't want them to punch out. I wanted them to stay. So I laid a piece of vellum over top of it ran it through the die cut machine with the 2 layers, and then the vellum, the little pieces popped out, but on this piece of cardstock it didn't. So I thought that was a great technique to show you that you can make your dies just a little bit different, even those detailed dies. And now these probably would pop out if I forced them to pop out, but I don't want them to. I want it to look like this on the card. And then there was one little champagne foil lacy piece, and that was from those painted label dies as well. So those are our die cuts. So let's go ahead and move this over to the side a little bit. I'm just going to set these right on there. We're going to let that dry. Get out my embossing tray, and we will do some heat embossing. So you always need your Versamark. You need your embossing buddy. This has a powder in it. I'm not even sure what the powder is. I don't even care, because I'm just going to rub it on here. It's going to take that static off in your paper, and then you're going to ink up with your Versamark, and I just like to do it this way. Your Eiffel Tower. Set your Versamark somewhere else. Don't leave it on your paper when you're sprinkling embossing powder on it. Then sprinkle your copper embossing powder. That's quite a bit, but that's okay. I'm going to try to get as much of it back into that as I can. But because I wiped that with the embossing buddy first, I don't have a bunch of embossing powder stuck to the edges of the paper. Sometimes it will stick like that just because it's staticky. I mean, it's just science. That's how it works, right? Science. Who knew there was science in card making? I did. Woohoo, go me. Okay, so so now you're gonna get your heat tool, and of course this gets a little loud, but I just hold down with, this is the old paper piercing tool. Hi Aria and Fran and Laura. I just looked up and saw all these extra people around here. And now your paper kind of curls up a little bit when you're heat embossing. And I try to go up and down the paper a couple of times while it's heating up, and then, you know, once it gets to it will start embossing, and you will see that copper, as I'm going down from the top to the bottom here, you'll see that copper embossing powder is melting, and it's giving it that embossed look, that shiny embossing on there. Now what I like to do, I don't want to do it too much. I like to kind of flip my paper over a little bit and just heat on the back, just to kind of help straighten that paper out a little bit. And it'll flatten it because it did it the one way, you know, made it curve the one way. And so when you heat it on the back, it kind of flattens it back out. All right, so look at that. Isn't that pretty? How you get that copper embossed. And because of the magic of video, I already have one die cut out. Woohoo! So now that we have that die cut and we have all our little pieces here, we can start assembling. Take that block off, since we had that, holding that to make sure the glue dried and that, you know, dried flat. Flip it over. We're going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of it. And you're just going to put them around that little piece of cardstock in the center, because you don't want them to show through the vellum. So as long as you've got them where that cardstock is in the center, you obviously it's not gonna show through. Now I wanted this card to be a little bit feminine, so that's why I went with all these little vellum die cuts and lacy things. And my husband and I lived in Germany for a few years, and our son was there too, obviously. It wasn't just my husband and I. We just left the kid with somebody else, you know. And I wanted to go to Paris, and we wanted to do, every time we were thinking about going, there was always something happening in Paris, and we couldn't go. They're like, no Americans go to Paris. There's, you know, riots happening or something. So we never got to go, which is a real bummer, but that's okay. So this little die here, I was talking instead of explaining. I just kind of thread this through that painted label die because it gives you that cute look. Isn't that cute? And then I just stick the little tip of, I kind of bring it over to the left too. I kind of want it toward the left so we have this open. I take a little bit of glue and I just flip it where I can see it. You probably can't see it while I'm doing it. So now that will glue that Eiffel Tower down. And just lay it on here. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's not glued on yet. We're just letting that dry a little bit. And then we are going to stamp in Memento ink, which is that black ink. You're the joy of my life. Good thing I looked at that before I stamped, or it would have been upside down. And now this little piece of paper, it's not going to stay this long because I just cut it a little bit longer so I'd have extra. I take my paper snips and I just snip the end on this to make a little banner tail. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be however you want it. Then take this. This is how long your little banner will be when it's done, which is 2 1/4, which is what I thought it was. And just run a tiny little strip of Tombow glue on it. Used a lot of Tombow on this project. But that's okay, I like Tombow. It's pretty inexpensive and it goes a long way. I know some people that use it now as their main adhesive because it is inexpensive and it doesn't cost as much to make your cards with it. So then just snip that little end off. Oh, Laura got to go to Paris. Fran's mom is from France. That's awesome. So do you speak any French, Fran? I took French in high school, 3 years of it, and I barely remember any of it, but that's just because I haven't used it. I think if I saw some of it, you know, the written words like on signs and things, it would probably come back to me a little bit, but I would never speak it fluently again unless I took some lessons. Okay, so now that you have that on there, whoops, I keep closing up my glue and I'm going to use it again. Just take some Tombow and put across the back of your little banner, and we're gonna add that to the front. Now don't put any glue down on this lacy part because you don't want that part glued down. Chrissy went to Paris too. See, everybody got a chance to go to Paris. Every time I wanted to go, we couldn't go. There were riots and, you know, whatever. Or life just got in the way and we weren't able to go. But that's okay, someday. Someday I'm going to Paris. It's in my plans, right? Gonna do it. All right. So I'm gonna set that on there to hold that down again. Like I said, these clear blocks are amazing. So Fran, very little French. You were permitted to speak French. Oh, okay, because she wanted to learn English. Oh, that's interesting. But now, like as an adult, you probably wish you had learned French. Because I feel like my grandfather, he was German and his mother only spoke German. And so all of the kids grew up bilingual. But then he didn't teach his kids or his grandkids German, and I don't know why. But we didn't learn. I wish he probably would have taught us had we asked, but as kids, that's just not something you think of, I guess. But as an adult, you're like, oh, I wish I would have learned. I wish Grandpa would have taught me German. All right, so now that that's been sitting there for just a few seconds, flip it over. And you can see my little glue splots on the back. So all you're gonna do is cross that banner, put a couple of dimensionals. We're gonna put some on the Eiffel Tower as well. And I'm thinking I can fit, I can fit the large ones down here at the bottom. Toward the top, we'll have to use a couple of mini ones because you just don't want it to sag. That's why I use a few extra, because I don't want it to sag. We don't want any saggy Eiffel Towers, right? If I can get them off from here, I should have grabbed my Take Your Pick tool. But that's all right. It's literally right in front of me in my tool holder, and I'm just still struggling with these because, you know, why would I do it the easy way? That would make sense. So now this card, even though it takes a lot of supplies, and when you go to my blog and see the list of supplies, it's a little bit overwhelming, but you don't have to do everything that I did. You don't have to do these die cuts. You don't have to do this embossing. You could just put a layer of vellum here if you wanted. You could just do, you know, your Eiffel Tower, die cut your Eiffel Tower out. You could use actually just a circle here with just a circle punch. You don't have to use the super fancy circle like I did from the painted labels. Now that we got all those backings off, just go ahead and stick that down. And I know it kind of looks like I did this backwards because now I'm going to put this layer on, but you can't really put this layer down until that layer's on because this kind of goes over. So I just put a really thin layer just kind of across the top of those. I don't even know what you would call these, but like I said, they look like upside down raindrops to me in the way I put them. If you flip them the other way, they just look like raindrops. But I'm not sure what they are supposed to be. Maybe they're supposed to be petals. They are from the lily die, so maybe they are just petals. So since you've got that Tombow glue, you can just slide that underneath. And the beautiful thing about this is the exact width of the front of the card. Just stick those 2 dimensionals down. You've got that little bit of glue there. Some of it's going to touch the Eiffel Tower. Some of it might touch some of this designer series paper, and a lot of it probably doesn't touch anything. But it's on there just in case you can get it, you know, to stick. I mean, these dimensionals are going to pretty much hold it in place, but that gives it just a little bit of extra in there in case you want it. Now the last step for, well, not the last step, we've got a couple more steps actually, but the last step for this little section here is to use some of this metallic edge ribbon in Petal Pink, and we're going to tie a bow. And I like to try to tie it while it's still on the roll, just because it's a little bit, I don't waste as much ribbon that way, because look, I'm going to cut quite a bit off here, but I need to grab these other scissors. Thank you, Chrissy. I really like this card too. I was, you know, like I said, I was trying to do a little more feminine card today, and like I said, there's a lot of parts, but you don't have to do everything. You can make it simpler without using the embossing folder, without using some of the dies. And it's not going to look exactly the same, but it's going to be really similar, and that's okay. All right, so take your mini glue dots, take your bow. This is one of the few bows that I have been able to tie lately that actually has turned out, and I think it's from the ribbon. So I just stick it on the side here because I want it to go this way. I don't know why. I just thought it looked really pretty that way. I said, why not? Let's give it a shot. And we're just going to use that tool again because it's already out. Why not use my paper piercer? I do love my paper piercer. And I think I'm going to add an extra one over here just to give it 3. And I'm going to do the same with this card. I'm going to put an extra one over here. Just give it a little extra bling. For the inside, you have a piece of Whisper White cardstock. You have this cute little, I call it a filigree. We're going to use some Pool Party ink. Just going to stamp it at the bottom. Flip it around. Going to stamp it at the top. We'll put a little bit of snail adhesive on the back of it, and it is going to go on the inside of the card. And that is going to finish up this card. I actually love the way this card turned out. It was kind of my vision. Very feminine, very girly is what I wanted this card to be. So there you have it. There is today's One Card Wonder Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you need to purchase the supplies, just head over to my blog. I'm going to have a list of all of the supplies that I used today to make this card, and you can click on the link and purchase them there. If you are watching this video on replay, I appreciate you coming back to my site or my Facebook group and watching it. I really do appreciate that. If you're watching it from my blog, thank you for coming to my blog. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. I live and love to inspire you, and I will see you next week for One Card Wonder Wednesday. Thank you. Bye.